Is it open, ready?
Yes, sir, we're good to go.
Is everyone on?
Yes, people are joining.
Okay. Let me know when they're all joined.
Okay. You're good to start, sir.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining on the webinar 2 on WIP. And we've got a very short timeline today. USDA can only be on for 45 minutes. So what I'd like to do is cut with all of the speeches and just recognize Steve. And then I'm sure there's a lot of questions. I think it'd be better, Steve, if we went just to those questions. So Steve Peterson was with us before, gave us an overview. I don't think we need another overview. Let's just go right to questions if you're okay with that, Steve.
Yes, Mr. Congressman, definitely great with that.
Okay. Ready?
We don't have any questions yet. I think people are taking a second to put in their questions,
Okay.
but so far we don't have any.
And if anyone does have a question, go to the Q&A section and just type in your question. I see one's up now. Okay, you see the question ready?
Okay, yes, we have one question.
Read
Okay,
You have
it
two.
says, I have been given 2 answers by 2 different FSA representatives on the following items. If I answer no to item 14 and 15 for one line item, I am ineligible for the other 3 line items on the pre-filled form, according to one representative. The problem is that for 2022, our yield for our cab was not high enough for insurance, and not sure if we can get crop insurance for 2 years prior to 2026. The other representative claims we are eligible. If we are eligible, how do I respond to number 22 and 23?
I'm probably gonna punt it to Risk Management Agency. I know Richard Flournoy is on and his team is on. I'm gonna start out by saying that if you, first of all, and this is really detailed question. First of all, it sounds like to me that certain crops did receive an indemnity. And so they are on the pre-filled application. And so ultimately they are eligible for ERP. What we're asking them to do on the pre-filled form is certify to meet linkage for those 2 subsequent years. What they're indicating is that they're concerned that their yield may not qualify them for insurance for the 2 subsequent years. So Richard, any thoughts around their eligibility and meeting linkage associated to that? And if it's on our side for meeting linkage, well, obviously we can talk about that, but this is really a very specific scenario to work through.
Yeah, I think we might need more information about exactly, why they wouldn't be eligible. Also have the Davis regional office on, and he may have, some more information, but generally, Steve, I think, if they're not going to be eligible for various reasons, then I think in general, we've kind of determined that wouldn't apply if they can't get insurance coverage for some reason in certain situations. But I think we might need more information. Or Jeff, if you want to chime in here.
Yeah, I think what they're getting at also is that there is a minimum production requirement to insure grapes. So my guess is, as just a guess, is that this variety here did not meet the minimum production requirement. So that's why they're saying they may not be able to get insurance for the next 2 years. So it would be considered an uninsurable crop, although we could look at it under an agreement.
So how can we hook this particular constituent up with you guys to get this resolved?
If the grower lets one of us know, or you all know, and you can get back to us who it is, we can see if that is the reason for the inability to get insurance in the 2 subsequent years, and then we could just get back to FSA and they can provide the answer.
Okay, so if this caller would contact my office with your name and phone number. We'll get you hooked up with USDA.
Okay, next question. Do you know when we can expect the checks if we have submitted all the paperwork?
Technically, if the paperwork has been submitted, the county office then enters that application in the system, and that application is processed. Once they sign and certify to the payment, then it takes about 3 to 5 days to be direct deposited into the producer's bank account. So again, depending on how quickly, once it's received in the county office, that the county office actually submits and enters the application. But once it's entered in the process, the payment is generated and they sign and certify, it'll take 3 to 5 days to actually show up in the bank account. And I would just recommend that if they have questions about timing, they are more than glad to contact the county office to see when it was entered into the system. So it kind of gives them a better handle on when that payment should be received.
Okay. Next question. Why is it that it's 75% minimum total adjusted gross income from farming requirement for eligibility for higher payout level when the farming income is all or partly absent in the disaster year where relief is sought? Am I missing something?
That's a great question. We are working on that scenario. We've gotten a lot of those questions in around AGI. I just would share with the person that's asking the question, you know, for standing farm bill programs, FSA has a $900,000 AGI requirement. So anybody that receives over $900,000 is ineligible for our programs. Under this disaster program, though, this 75% test allows us to ignore that $900,000 AGI so that even those producers that earn more than $900,000 can still be eligible as long as over 75% of their income is from farming. And so that's why the test is there. We have been getting questions in, well, if it's a disaster year and I had no income or negative income, then how can a CPA really certify to that 75% test? I know that Scott Marlowe, who's also joined the call, we are having these conversations about that issue, and we'll be providing further guidance once we're able to evaluate it. So it is a good question, and we're looking into how we should respond to that.
Okay. Can you provide a little more clarity on how the benefit amount is to be received was calculated? Both our local FSA and our insurance agent have expressed their confusion on how the amount was calculated.
What I would like to do is, I know we worked with Farm Bureau in providing a calculation model that actually outlines how that payment is calculated. What I would like to do is provide that link, and then hopefully that can, and Congressman, what I can do is I can share that with your office, and then we can get it to that you can share it with your constituents associated to that formula. Some of the questions that we're getting are very specific, and so it would really need to be drilling down to their exact scenario, but maybe if we can provide them that link, that'll help explain how it's calculated so that then we can follow up with further questions after they see that.
I have a general question about the scope of ERP. We are talking about phase 1, which cover losses of crop, but what about losses of vines due to fire, the replanting cost, and the loss of subsequent income for several years? Does ERP address these types of losses? Thank you.
ERP phase 1 only covers those losses that are identified associated to crop insurance claims and where indemnities have been received. Phase 2 could go into other types of losses associated to the vine losses, to the tree and bush losses that could occur. We haven't fully vetted that yet for phase 2. The other thing that I do want to put a plug in, and hopefully this is being taken advantage of, is the tree assistance program that is a standing program that is offered by the Farm Service Agency, which provides cost share to reestablish those stands as a result of a disaster. And so I would at least inquire to your local county office about some of the other disaster assistance programs that might help the producer reestablish those vines. Phase 2 will have more information once we evaluate what other types of losses we can cover within the funding levels that we have. We got to remember that we've only got $10 billion associated to the losses to cover for both 2020 and 2021, and some 2022 if an adverse weather event occurred in calendar year 2021.
I received a crop insurance indemnity and I have not received my mailed application for phase 1. What can I do to receive my application?
First of all, I would remind you that we pulled the data for ERP phase 1 as of May 2nd. So if the indemnity was paid prior to May 2nd, it should have been included and you should have received a pre-filled application. If that is the case, contact your local county office. They have a list of all the producers that have or should receive a pre-filled application. Yours might just be delayed or lost in the mail. And so contact the office. If for some reason your indemnity wasn't paid until after May 2nd, we are going to be doing a run later this summer. And when we do that run later this summer, we'll be able to pick up that missing application, that indemnity that was paid after May 2nd, and it'll be included under a phase 1 payment run.
Is the payment amount provided by the local office on pre-filled form FSA 520 after the 25% reduction or before?
The amount that's on the ERP, the calculated ERP benefit that's on the form, is the full estimated amount before reduction. So before the money is factored, before payment limitations are applied, it is the full calculated benefit prior to reductions.
I received FSA 520 and I have completed and signed the form and returned it to FSA in Vacaville, California. However, I am unable to compute the estimated ERP payment prior to the adjustments in item 11. Will RMA provide the values of all the variables used in the RMA calculation to arrive at the value in item 11?
I'll answer the question, then let Richard follow up if it's different instructions. Right now, we're advising applicants that have received the pre-filled form that if they have questions associated to items 7 through 10, and I think item 12, they should reach out to their local insurance agent for assistance in validating the entries that are on the form. With regard to the ERP payment, again, it goes back to these can be very specific, unique scenarios, and they're a little difficult to really respond to. We may need more information to really understand why they believe the estimate or the amount is wrong. But I don't know, Richard, any thoughts associated to the item 11?
No, I would agree with your comments about talking to the agent, and then also the Farm Bureau website you mentioned that goes through the example. That's been helpful as well, and people have questions and they look at that. So I think that would be a start. If that doesn't work, specific examples, we could follow up directly with the constituent.
Our CPA is asking for the clarification of total income definition on the FSA Form 510. Is total income defined as gross revenue, gross sales, receipts, or is it income after the farming expense was deducted?
Sorry about that. I lost my mouse and I couldn't get it back to the spot to unmute. Might need some help from Scott or Kim on this, but I think it's gross revenue. So it's taking into consideration the gross revenue for the 3 years, the average gross revenue. Is that not correct, Scott?
I believe that's right, Steve. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gross.
And that is our last question. Oh, there's one more that's coming in. So if I receive my crop insurance indemnity after May 2nd, will I automatically be included in phase 2?
Actually, you will still be considered under phase 1. We are running, we are making another run under phase 1 later this summer to pick up ECO, SCO, and stacks policies. And we're hoping at that time that any policy that previously had not been processed will be picked up. So it will still be considered a phase 1 payment, but it will be done in that same run as we do the SCO, ECO, and stacks policies are a, what's the term that I want?
Area. plan.
Area, there you go. Thank you. That's the word. I was thinking, yeah, area plan. And so ultimately we have to wait until those area plans are finalized. We do, and we'll have that information, we think, by around middle to late July, early August, so that we can make those runs. So at that time, we'll be able to process any missing indemnity that may have been paid after that May 2nd timeframe.
Our vineyard is leased by a vineyard management company. The agreement is a percentage-based agreement on total tons sold per year, a 60-40 split. Are vineyard management companies eligible for ERP, or are they too large of an entity to apply or qualify for ERP?
The first thing that I'm going to ask, and I think this is the thing that has to be looked at, is who was the insurance policyholder? So was it the vineyard management company, or was it the owner of the vineyard? And so if it was the management company that gets a share of the production, one way or the other, and again, I don't know the details with regard to that operation, but if in fact that whoever was the insurance policyholder, if it was one or the other, the management company or the producer, one of them is going to actually get the pre-filled application based on the insured policyholder. If someone has a substantial beneficial interest in that crop, then ultimately they should be listed on the pre-filled application with a share and sign the application to become eligible. So again, don't know the specifics, don't know how that's really coming over in the pre-filled application. But the first thing that we're going to look at is who is the insured policyholder, and then do they have, or are there others that have an interest or risk in the crop that need to be taken into consideration in processing the ERP payment?
Steve, how should they proceed in their filing?
I would say, again, it depends on who's got the policy. To me, either one of them can file. So if the management company is the one that's going to get the pre-filled application, then the management company should reach out to the owner or the one having the other 40% or 60% interest in the commodity, and then list them as having a substantial beneficial interest on the pre-filled application, and then submit that to their county office. If it's the owner of the vineyard, then they would do the reverse. They would, if they're the policy holder, and so the pre-filled application comes in the owner's name, and the management company has an interest or risk in the crop, then they would want to list that management company on the application with a share and submit it back to the county office.
How long until the office goes over? Sorry. There it is. How long until the office goes over your paperwork if it has been submitted? In other words, how far behind are they in entering our claims?
I'll be honest with you. We're not very far behind because of the process that we've utilized. With the fact that we're just pre-filling the application, and that application is coming into FSA, there are very few items that a county office has to enter in the application process itself to process the application, because it's not burdensome on the county office. Obviously, they've got to manage maybe other programs depending on how widespread disasters are affecting their county, but we have not heard any counties concerned about the delays associated to being behind processing applications. So it should be relatively quick. Again, I would, if you've got concerns, if you've submitted your pre-filled application and it's been 5 days, I would probably reach out to the county office and just ask how they're going. You know, is there anything missing on my application that I still need to submit? Or is there anything that's being held up as a result of a missing form or anything along those lines?
Just to clarify again, is the adjustment referenced in item 11, the premium for the crop insurance?
Item 11 should, everyone will have to confirm, because now I'm thinking about the item numbers. Item 11, I think is the share, isn't it? Scott or Kim, can you confirm item 11? Isn't that the share, or is that the calculated ERP payment? Kim?
Steve, I am pulling up item 11 as we speak, and that is the estimated ERP payment
Okay.
prior to the adjustment, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So item 11 is the calculated ERP payment. The one thing that we have to remember, and I think we may have talked about it previously, is the fact that that ERP calculated benefit is going to probably be much more significant than what the actual indemnity was, because when your indemnity was processed by crop insurance, by your company, ultimately they reduced your premiums and fees that were required. And so that indemnity that you received had those taken off. The recalculation of the ERP benefit not only increases your guarantee, but then it also takes into consideration that those premium fees were paid. So it's going to increase, or it's going to take those into consideration to increase your ERP benefit as a result of that. Hopefully that was helpful.
Who do we contact at RMA regarding how they calculated the value in item 11 of form FSA-520?
Again, and Richard, I know this is directly directed to RMA, but I think we've addressed this before. We're going to share the Farm Bureau link or website or area that they have this calculator on. If you've got questions associated to items 7 through 10 and 12, contact your insurance company. If you've got questions associated item 11, the ERP calculated benefit, then try to work through the Farm Bureau's formula. And then if for some reason you have a problem with that, please reach out to the congressman's office and we'll make certain we will get that information and we'll contact you directly to try to help assist you. Obviously, we want to manage not having to recalculate everybody's ERP payment, but ultimately we do want to be responsible in assisting where we can.
Based on my understanding of the program, I think we'll be in phase 2. Is there anything I can do now to get the ball rolling?
The one thing that I would say, if you believe you fall under phase 2, is just make certain that you've got your documents with FSA on file. Make sure you've got a farm record. Make certain that you've got your 1026, 80-1026 for highly erodible land and wetlands updated. Make sure your pain limitation documentation is accurate. If you are historically underserved, make sure you go ahead and file an 860 on file. So I would do some of that pre-work so that when we announce phase 2, ultimately it's smoother because you've got most of that startup work completed. Now, if all that's in, then what I would just recommend is holding tight until we're ready to go and make the announcement for phase 2.
If the vineyard management company who's eligible for the claim is no longer farming the same property and so cannot maintain the crop insurance on it for 2 years, how should they complete number 14?
Number 14 is certifying that they're going to meet the linkage requirements. So they would certify that they're going to meet the linkage requirements, and we have provisions that indicate for whatever reason the producer is no longer farming, growing grapes or managing a vineyard, then ultimately they would no longer be required to meet the linkage requirement. So I think what they want to do is they want to certify that they'll meet linkage. And then if for some reason, this is true for any producer, if for some reason a producer goes out of business, then they're no longer required to meet that linkage requirement for subsequent years because they are not growing a crop to then be required to meet the linkage.
And Stephen, just to follow up on that question, if the management company isn't farming that specific land, but is farming other land, farming grapes on other land, would they have to meet linkage?
And the answer to that would be yes, it's on any units for the crop. I think we've got a design that it's for the unit. It's not for the unit. It's not by crop and units for the crop in which you have the interest. Scott, Kim, you want to verify that for me just to make sure I'm straight?
Steve, I apologize. I missed the question. I was trying to look for the next. I'm answering questions online as well, so hopefully Rita sees that. I'm sorry.
No problem, Kim. The question was, Jeff followed up
Yes.
that if for some reason that management company isn't farming that specific land, but they are still farming and they're growing grapes, is the linkage specific by crop and unit? Is it only for crop? So if it's by crop, they would still be required to meet linkage because they're
Yes.
still growing the crop. Or is it specific to the unit? And I think I was saying it's by crop.
Rob, I believe that is correct, sir. And that's what we have provided, I think, even in one of the FAQs as well, by crop.
Thank you, Kim.
And I apologize. I will try not to do double duty. I was just trying to get some of the other questions out of the way.
No apology necessary. Your forward thinking is appreciated.
Regarding item number 13, is quote unquote share the percentage interest in the entity or event? If not, please explain again.
It's a percent share in the crop. So what is the interest share in the crop for which someone has? So if it's the policyholder and they have 100% interest, then it's 100%. If it's a policyholder that shows 100% interest, but then truly through substantial beneficial interest is 60-40, then they would want to put in the 60% for them as the policyholder and then 40 for the person having a substantial beneficial interest. So it's really the share interest in the crop.
So far, that was all the questions we had.
You get the one about the clarification, the total income?
Oh, I think Kimberly Graham is answering that, but here, I'll
Okay.
read it out. Would you like me to read it out so it can be answered here or?
Yeah, if you get time, why don't you?
Okay, absolutely. Our CPA is asking for the clarification of total income definition on the FSA Form 510. Is total income defined as gross revenue or gross sales receipt, or is it income after the farming expense were deducted?
It's gross revenue. I think we had that question a little bit earlier in the
Yep.
in this scenario.
You did.
All right, that looks like all the questions.
Excellent. It's nothing
USDA.
like being on a firing line and just having 100 questions being fired at you at one time.
I tried,
Well,
Steve. I tried.
It's much appreciated that you guys are willing to do this. And I don't know if I'm going to ask you to do it again. We'll see how this thing rolls out. But I know that you are absolutely outstanding working with me and my staff. So I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more before this is all resolved.
And Congressman, I would say that one of the tools that we're using is a frequently asked questions document that's on the farmers.gov website and ERP. And so I want to put a plug in for that because we're trying to keep those questions updated as we get those questions in. So that may also be helpful to your constituents as well, to go to that website often because we're continuing, as you said, getting more and more questions in. So we're trying to update those as we move forward as well.
Appreciate it very much. Jeff, are those almond trees in the background there? Kind of late for a bloom, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't want to go too far north on the trees, and I appreciate you calling them almonds, sir.
Absolutely. You and I know the difference.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you guys very, very much for today and for all the good work you do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.